Alright, this is the yarn I'll be using. They're both 100% acrylic yarn. This one right here is I Love This Yarn, and then this one right here is just Red Heart. And then for the materials, I'll be using a pair of scissors, a 4.25mm hook, a tapestry needle, and this is optional, but I'm also going to be using a stitch marker. Alright, so to begin, we're going to go ahead and make a magic ring, and in order to make a magic ring, I'm going to take my yarn, and I'm going to kind of pinch it like this. So I'm pinching it with my pinky, then I'm going to hold on it with my thumb, I'm going to wrap it around, and I'm going to form an X at the top, like this, okay? So now that I've formed my X, I'm going to take my hook, and I'm going to go under the first line of the X, and I'm going to grab the second one, and I'm going to bring it, and I'm going to twist it up. Then I'm going to take the additional yarn right here, and we're just going to pull that through, and there you've made your first chain. Alright, so we're going to chain an additional 2, so we're going to chain 1, 2, and then to begin, in this magic ring, we're going to be working 2 double crochets. So I'm going to yarn over, go into the ring, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that's how you do a double crochet. So we're going to do one more. So yarn over again, go into that ring and do another double crochet. I just wanted to note that that first chain 3 we did actually counted as our first double crochet, so the 2 additional double crochet we just did totals the amount to 3 double crochets. Okay, now I'm going to chain 2, and in this same ring we're going to work another 3 double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and chain 2 once again. So 1, 2, and in this ring again we're going to work 3 double crochet. Two, 3. Alright, so I'm going to chain 2 for the last time, and I'm going to work another 3 double crochet. So we're going to chain 2, and we're going to work 3 more double crochet. This is going to be the last time we do that. So that's our first double crochet, our second, and that's our third. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my little yarn right here, the tail, and I'm just going to pull on that, and when you pull on it, it kind of closes up the gap like so. So I'm going to chain an additional 2, 1, 2, and then I'm going to slip stitch the top of the chain 3. So I'm going to locate my chain 3. This is our first 2 double crochets, and right here is our chain 3. So you're going to locate the top, and you're going to slip stitch to the top of the chain 3. Okay, and then I'm just slip stitching. Alright, now that I've slip stitched, I'm going to go ahead and just pull my tail once again to kind of tighten that gap, so we have no gap right here. Alright, so now I'm going to start forming the heart. So to do that, I'm going to go to our next double crochet right here, so the stitch right next to us, and we're going to do another slip stitch so we kind of have our work in the middle. Alright, then I'm going to chain 1. Okay, so once I've chained 1, we're going to go into this first gap right here, so in this very first gap, and we're going to work 8 double crochets. So we're going to yarn over, go in there, and work 8 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that I've worked 8 double crochet all in this gap, I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to go into our next gap right here, and we're just going to work a single crochet. So I'm going to go in there, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Then I'm going to chain 1 again, and we are going to go to the middle of our chain of our 3 double crochet clusters, that middle stitch, and we're going to just work a single crochet. We're going to work 2 single crochets in there. So that's our first. In this exact same stitch, we're going to work a second single crochet. So I'm going to go in there. Alright, then I'm going to chain 1, and at this point, this is where your stitch marker comes kind of handy dandy, because we're going to go ahead and mark this stitch. Now obviously you don't have to, but it's just easier to locate later. So I'm going to just take my stitch marker and put it in this stitch. Now in this same space again, we're going to work 2 more single crochets. So I'm going to go in, and we're going to work our first, and then we're going to work 1 more in there. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and then we're going to go into our next gap right here with a single crochet. So I'm going to go in there and do a single crochet. Then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to go into this gap right over here, and in this gap we're going to be working 8 double crochets again. Alright, once you've done your 8, make sure you count and make sure that you actually have 8 in there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and it seems like my magic ring is opening again, so I'm just going to close it. Okay, so to end off this heart, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to chain 1 again, and you see how we have our chain 3 right here, and then we have our 2 other double crochets kind of in the middle. You're going to kind of locate that middle. So this gap right here, do you kind of see it, like this gap? Let me take my hook out. You see this right here? That's what we're going to slip stitch into. So kind of in the middle at the top, we're going to go in there and we're going to do a slip stitch. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and then I'm going to go ahead and snip off my work. Alright, so there we go. Now at this point you can go ahead and sew in your loose ends, so I'm going to go do that real quick and then I'll come back to you guys. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've sewn in my loose ends, and I hope you guys have too because it's going to make your life easier. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to flip my work upside down. So I flip my heart upside down, and you see where I put this stitch marker, so this chain 1 that we did right here, we're going to insert our hook in there. So if you didn't mark it, it's fine, but it's just, you know how we did the 2 single crochets, chain 1, 2 single crochets to kind of form that bottom tip? That chain 1 is where we're going to be working into. So you're going to grab your next color, and I'm going to go ahead and make a slip knot. Alright, so with my slip knot on my hook, I'm going to go ahead and fit my hook where I've marked it with my stitch marker, and then I'm just going to go ahead and take that stitch marker out. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch this on. So I'm just going to pull through this one and then pull through the loop on our hook. Okay, so right now we're going to be working the square around the heart. So right now we just have a plain heart, but now we're going to be making this square that goes around it. So by the way, we're only going to be working in the back loops. Okay, so I'm going to go into our back loop of our next stitch, and we're just going to work a single crochet. Then I'm going to go to the back loop of our next stitch, and we're going to do a half double crochet. Then I'm going to go to the back loop of our next with a double. And then I'm going to do a triple in the next stitch. Then I'm going to go ahead and chain 2. And chaining 2 counts as our first corner. So we're going to go into our next stitch with a double crochet. And then we're going to do a half double crochet in that next. Then for the next 4 stitches, we're going to do single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to work 4 more single crochets in the heart. So I'm going to go in there, work our first one, second, we're going to go and do our third, and then we're going to do our fourth. And in the middle right here, we're going to be working a half double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to go in between our 3 double crochet cluster, so in between our chain 3 and our 2. So right in this gap, I'm going to go in there and just work a half double crochet. And then I'm going to be working 4 more single crochets. So try to fit in this stitch right here. So I kind of pull this to the side. There's like 1 stitch right here, and you're going to try to fit 1 single crochet in there. But if it's too hard, obviously, just kind of add your single crochet relatively close to where we kind of did this middle. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to do a single crochet. So that's 1. Then I'm going to go to our second stitch, 2, 3, and then we're going to do 4. Alright, then I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to do 4 more single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a half double crochet. Then I'm going to do a double crochet. Then I'm going to go ahead and chain 2, and I'm going to be working a triple crochet. Whoops, I didn't even do the triple crochet, hold on. Triple crochet in this stitch. Then I'm going to be working a double crochet, a half double crochet in the next stitch, and in that very last stitch, this stitch right here, we're going to be working a single crochet. Alright, so we've just gone around our entire heart, forming sort of a square. So to end this off, I'm going to slip stitch to the first single crochet we made. So this is our slip stitch right here, and this one is our first single crochet. So I'm going to go in there with a slip stitch. Alright, so to begin our new round, I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and in the same space we did our slip stitch, we're going to be doing 2 additional double crochets. So I'm going to yarn over, and in that same space where I did my slip stitch, I'm also going to be working 2 double crochets. 1, 2. Then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to go to our first corner that we made, and we're going to work 3 double crochet. Then I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to work 3 more double crochet all in that corner. Okay, then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to kind of make sure you pull your stitches over so you don't miss any stitches. But we have our first, second, third, and this fourth stitch, we're going to be working 3 more double crochets. So I'm going to go in there. So skip 3 in that fourth stitch, work 3 double crochet. Alright, then I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 once again. And in this corner, which you kind of have to pull with your finger, but in this corner, this chain 2 corner, we're going to work 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. So that's our first, second, third. Now I'm going to chain 2, and in this same corner we're going to be working 3 more double crochets. 2, 3. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and we're going to go to the top of our half double crochet we did in the middle to kind of divide the heart. So we're going to go in there, so the top stitch of that, and we're going to do 3 more double crochets all in that top stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to go into the corner, and we're going to work 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. So that's our second, that's our third. Then I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to work 3 more double crochet in there. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and this time we're only going to skip 2 stitches. So if I pull this to the side, we've got our first, our second, and in that third stitch right here, we're going to be working 3 double crochets. So go ahead and do that. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and we're going to go into our last corner by working 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. So that's our second, that's our third, chain 2, and work 3 more double crochets in that same gap. Alright, then I'm going to chain 1, and to end off our row, we're going to slip stitch to the top of the chain 3. So I'm going to go locate our top, this is our chain 3, we're going to go to the top of it, so that very top stitch in the chain 3, and we're going to be working a slip stitch. Alright, so now we're going to slip stitch in our next 2 stitches. So I'm going to go to this stitch, and we're going to slip stitch. I'm going to go to my following stitch with another slip stitch, And then by doing this, I'm trying to get myself to a gap. So we're going to go into the gap now and do a slip stitch. Okay, so now we've made our way over to the gap. So to begin this new round, we're going to start off by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. And in this same gap, we're going to be working 2 double crochet, because this chain 3 already counts as our first one. So that's 1, 2. Then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to go into this next gap right here, and we're going to do 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. 2, 3, chain 2, 3 double crochet, 2, 3. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to go into my gaps and work 3 double crochet. So 3 double crochet like that. I'm going to chain 1, and make sure every time before you go to a new space, make sure you always chain 1. So I've just chained 1. I'm going to go into this next space with 3 double crochet, and that's what we're going to keep doing. So I'm going to chain 1, then I'm going to go into this corner space right here, and we're going to work 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. We're going to chain 1 again, and we're going to go into this gaps by working 3 double crochet, making sure to chain 1 in between, and we're just going to keep doing that. In the corners, you're going to be working 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, so the corners of the square, and in the gaps, you're going to be working 3 double crochet only. So just keep doing that, okay? Made it to the end. I've done my 3 double crochet in this gap, and I've chained 1. So we're going to go to the top of our chain 3, and we're going to do a slip stitch in there. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 and snip off this colored yarn. Alright, so the square, so we're going to attach our original color, and we're going to go around the square one more time. So kind of like this. This is how it's going to look once we go around the square. So whatever color you're using for the heart, you're going to reattach that yarn. So we're going to do this by making a slip knot, putting the slip knot on our hook, securing it on our hook, and then we're going to go into any corner. So I'm just going to go in right here and work a slip stitch to attach our yarn. Then I'm going to chain 3, and then I'm going to work 2 double crochets in that corner. 1, 2. Then I'm going to chain 2. And in the same corner, we're going to work 3 double crochets. Mind you, the chain 3 counted as our first double crochet. So we're going to do 3 more double crochet in here. So that's our first, second, third. I'm going to chain 1. And like I said before, we're going to go into our gaps by doing 3 double crochet, 3 double crochet, 3 double crochet. Get to our corners doing 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. But remember, you have to do the chain 1 in the middle. So I'm going to do my 3 double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 1 and so on. So I'm going to go and do that one more time, and once I get to the end, I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to attach to the top of my chain 3. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you there. Alright guys, we made it to the end, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and then I'm going to go to the top of my chain 3 and do a slip stitch in there. And then I'm going to chain 1 and snip off my work. Just like that. Alright, so congratulations on making your first granny square. So at this point, you're going to go ahead and sew in the loose ends, and then you're going to make 7 more granny squares because this one is your first one. Because the bag, I'm going to show you the original one. Alright, so as you can see, the original bag, we have 2 squares at the top, 2 squares at the bottom. If I flip it to the back, we also got 2 and 2. So go ahead and make 7 more squares and then come back to this video. Alright, welcome back to the video. I hope you've gone ahead and made your additional 7 squares. So now I'm going to be showing you how to sew them together. So basically, we're going to sew the squares together, but we're going to sew it together like this, and then we're going to take 2 other squares and we're also going to sew it down like that, and then we're going to join it down the middle. So I've already kind of done this with one of my squares. So you see how I've joined it down the middle? We're going to join this like here, and then we're going to go down the middle and join that together. And to do that, I like to whip stitch it together because it looks so seamless and flat, and I just love it. So I'm going to show you how to do it. So we're going to do whip stitches with our needle, by the way. So we need to get some yarn in order to sew in and out of our square. So to do that, this is how I like to measure it. So I get my yarn like this, and I want a little bit of yarn before the square, and then we've got the square, and then we're going to have a little bit of yarn after the square, and then I like to cut off like around right here. So I do this because I want to make sure that I have enough tail end to sew in later. So to sew this together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this square right here and I'm going to flip it like this. Alright, so you're going to locate your chain 2. So we've got our chain 1 and our chain 2. And in our first chain of our chain 2, we're going to insert our needle through that. Okay? And then we're going to leave a little tail end like this. So we've got a long string and then we've got a little tail end, and we're going to go ahead and tie this on to our square. Okay, so now that I've got my yarn like kind of secured onto my square, I'm going to put my needle back on the yarn. And if I kind of flip it over, you want to locate your first chain of the chain 2. So this is our first one, that's our second. So in this first one, we're going to go to the loop that's closest to us. So right here. And we're just going to pull that through. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to our second chain of that chain 2. Only going into the loop that's closest to us, so this kind of front loop. And then I'm going to go to the corresponding side over here, but we're going to go through that back loop. So the loop that's furthest from us. And I'm going to pull that through. Then I'm going to come back on this side since the yarn is currently on this side. And I'm going to start going into my stitches. So I'm going to go into that loop that is furthest from us. And then I'm going to go into that corresponding stitch that is closest to us. And I'm going to go in. So essentially what I mean by closest to us and far away from us is that basically when you go in, you're going to go into the front loop of this one. So I'm going to go into the front loop of that, and then I'm going to locate the back loop of our other one, and we're just going to go in there and pull that. You see what I mean? So now I'm going to go in here again. We're going to go to our corresponding side, but we're going to the back loop of this one and the front loop of this one, and I'm pulling that through. Then I'm going again. I'm pulling that through. Then I'm going to go again to the back loop of this one, so the loop that's furthest away from us, and then the loop that is closest to us, and I'm going to weave that through. So we've made it towards the end, so we actually have one more chain to go into, so I'm going to go in there, and we're going to go to our corresponding one. And what I'm going to do before I actually pull this through is I'm going to hold on this like this, and then I'm going to pull it through. Okay, so once I've held on it like this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit my fingers in this loop, and I'm going to grab my tail and pull that through and then tighten it. And there we go. We've gone ahead and we've just attached our first 2 squares together. So you're going to go ahead and do this again. So you'll end up having 2 sets of squares like this. So go ahead and sew another 2 squares together and then come back. We're going to go ahead and sew this down the middle. So to do that, I'm going to take this right here and I'm going to flip it over like that, and then I'm going to go like this, and you see how we have these stitches all the way across. We're going to be doing the same whip stitch method again, so ultimately it should look like this once we've kind of have it sewn together, but right now we're flipping it like this so we can sew it together. So I'm going to go and locate my chain 2 corner. I'm going to put my stitch into that first stitch of that chain 2, and then I'm going to pull that through. By doing a double knot. Alright, and then you're just going to keep doing the whip stitch method. We're going to go into our first stitch of the chain 2 and pull that through. And then we're going to go into our second, and then we're going to go to the corresponding on the other side, and we're going to pull that through. And yeah, we're going to keep doing this weaving process that we've just done before, but we're going to keep sewing all the way down until the end. Alright, and this is how this basically looks. So, you're going to go ahead and repeat this process with your next 4 squares. So go ahead and do that, and then, like I said before, go ahead and come back to the video. Alright guys, so I have 2 of my squares right now, and if I turn it to the back, I've actually gone ahead and sewed in my loose ends. So I'm going to flip it back this way, and to join these 2 big squares together, I'm just going to kind of fold them like this. Like both of the right sides are actually facing out, and I'm going to attach my yarn at the corner, and we're just basically going to be doing single crochets all the way across till we reach this end, so we have an opening for our bag. So I'm just going to make a slip knot and put that slip knot in my hook. Then I'm going to go ahead and take my big squares. I'm going to go into this first stitch right here, and we're going to go into the corresponding stitch on the other side, and we're going to work a single crochet. And we're going to go into our next, go to our corresponding. By the way, this is the chain 2s that we're going into right now, so this is the second chain of our chain 2. And then I'm going to be going into our actual stitches, so we're not going into the back loops at all. We're going into our actual stitches, and we're just going to be single crocheting the whole thing closed. So I'm going to go to our next one, go to our corresponding, and single crochet that closed. Now you can either fit your hook into the entire stitch of that chain, but if you find that too hard to kind of slip your hook in and you accidentally did your stitches quite tight, you can actually just go into that gap, but I'm going to go into the actual stitch since I didn't really do that tight. I'm going to go to the corresponding side and do another single crochet. And yeah, this is basically what we're going to be doing. So we're going to continue with our single crochets all the way down. Alright guys, so I've reached the end, so now I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and then I'm going to snip off my work. And there we go, we have sewn our thing closed. So this is how obviously the inside looks, and then this is the outside. So now we can begin with the little ruffle border we've done on this bag. So I'm grabbing my white yarn now and I'm making a slip knot. Then I'm going to put that slip knot in my hook and secure it. And then I'm going to go to the corner, and I'm going to slip stitch this in to the corner. From there, I'm going to be working single crochets all the way around the top of our bag. So to do that, I'm going to go into the stitch and work a single crochet, go into our next, work single crochet, and we're practically just doing this all the way down. Now you might be like, why am I working single crochets? Like, why can't you just get straight to the ruffle border? Well, if you try going directly in these stitches with the ruffle border, since they're double crochets, they're gonna stretch out like this. So instead of your stitches being like this, kind of close together, if you start adding increases, and you got to do increases in order to do ruffles, once you start doing that, the stitches will actually start to spread out, and that just looks kind of ugly. So in order to kind of have structure, we need to do single crochets, because single crochets are tighter than double crochets in order to support the ruffles we're about to add. So I went ahead and I just went in this gap with a single crochet. So I'm going to do my single crochets again, and then once I get into the gap, I'm just going to go directly in there, and I'm going to work a single crochet. Okay, so I've kind of gone to the middle, and we have this kind of weird looking thing. So I'm going to go into the corner and do another single crochet. Then I'm going to kind of fit a single crochet kind of in this middle thing we've got going on. So I'm just going to stick it anywhere in there and do a single crochet. And then I'm going to go to my other corner, I do a single crochet, and we're just going to keep doing single crochets into each stitch. So we've made it all the way around, so we're going to slip stitch to the top of our very first single crochet. So I'm just going to go over here to the top of our very first single crochet, and we're just going to do a slip stitch. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and chain 3, and in this same stitch I'm going to be working 3 more double crochets in this stitch. This chain 3 counts as our first, so in the same stitch I'm going to work 3 more. So 1, 2, 3. We have 4 double crochets total, counting the chain 3. So we're going to go into our next stitch right here, and we're going to work another 4 double crochets, 2 in the same stitch, by the way, 3, 4. We're going to go to our next stitch and work another 4, and that's basically what we're going to keep doing all the way around. So in each single crochet we're going to insert 4 double crochets, and by inserting 4 double crochets in each stitch, essentially you're going to start to create this kind of ruffle border all the way around. So right now it may not seem like much, but once you've kind of worked it for quite a bit, you'll start to see that ruffle sort of forming. Okay, so you're going to continue to work 4 double crochet in each single crochet all the way around till you reach the end. Alright guys, so we've got to the end. Also, as you can see, I've actually switched the lighting completely because it got too dark in my room, so I just turned on my main light. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slip stitch to the very first double crochet we worked. Okay? And then I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to snip off my work. Alright, so this is how the bag is looking right now, as you can see. So we've gone ahead and we've just done our ruffle, so now it's time to go ahead and attach the strap. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and add the strap, and in order to add the strap, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So if I open up my bag like this, as you can see, we have our chain, as you can see, we have our corner right over here, and then we have like our other stitches as well before the middle. So we're going to go to our corner, we're going to skip our corner, and we're going to skip this first cluster of 3, and in this second cluster of 3 we're going to insert our hook. And you might be like, girl, what the hell am I inserting my hook? I'm going to show you right now. This is how we're going to place our hook. So I'm going to kind of go like right over here, okay, kind of in this space right here, and I'm just going to do a slip stitch. Okay. Alright, now once I've done this slip stitch, I'm going to go ahead and do a single crochet in this exact same stitch. Alright, then I'm going to go into our next stitch. It isn't even a stitch, to be honest. We're kind of just going into these spaces. So I'm going to kind of go like at the top, so like over here. And I'm just going to single crochet again. And then I'm going to go about right here, and we're going to single crochet again. And then I'm going to go right over here, and we're going to single crochet. So now we're going to go ahead and chain 1. We're going to kind of flip our work over, but this time instead of working single crochets, we're going to be working half double crochets. So I'm going to yarn over, go into this first stitch right here, and we're going to do a half double crochet. Then go to the next stitch with a half double. The next, whoop, hold on. Okay, the next with another half double. Next one. I'm going to go ahead and chain 1. I'm going to flip my work over, and I'm just going to keep working half double crochets because once I keep doing this, essentially I'm building the strap right now. So I'm going to go into each stitch and do 1 half double crochet. Okay, then I've reached the end again, so I'm going to chain 1, flip my work over, and I'm going to keep working these rows of half double crochets, and then once I've gone to a spot I'm comfy, I'll tell you how many I did total. Alright guys, so I've been working for a bit and I did a total of 45 rows, including that first single crochet row we did. So now I'm going to go ahead and attach my strap on the other side, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've flipped my work this way, and make sure your strap is straight. So make sure it isn't like curling or something. Like make sure your strap is like completely straight, because I think that's a mistake a lot of people make when they make bag straps, is that they accidentally sew it together when it's curling and then it doesn't turn out right. So make sure your strap is straight. Alright, so I'm going to put my crochet hook in my loop. Okay, so basically, as you can see, this is our corner space. We've got our first, and then we've got our cluster of 3 after the corner space and our first cluster of 3. So in this cluster of 3 right here, as we kind of did on the other side, we're just going to be crocheting along it in order to kind of attach it like how we did this one. To do this, obviously this is our second cluster of 3 double crochet, so I'm going to kind of fit my hook into this space right around here, okay? And I'm going to just slip stitch. Okay, then I'm going to fit my hook into that next space, and I'm going to grab my work this time, and I'm going to insert my hook into my first stitch of our strap, and we're just going to do a single crochet. So you're going to pull through these 2 and then pull through again, and then I'm going to go into the next section. So we're going to go about right here, and we're going to go back on our strap. Okay, and we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then I'm going to go right here. Like I said, this is completely random. You're just going to make sure you're going across the cluster of 3. I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch. I'm going to do a single crochet. And then let's just go about right here, okay? And then we're going to insert our hook into the very last stitch. And then we're going to do a single crochet. So I'm going to yarn over and just pull through both of these, and then yarn over and pull through 2. Just like that. So by doing this, we've attached our strap onto the other side of our bag, as you can clearly see. So now I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 and snip off my work. So I'm going to chain 1. And there we go. We also got to add the strap on the other side as well. So go ahead and repeat the steps I just showed you to do in order to make the second strap, and then I'll come back for the final result.